Go ahead and get started. So first, a couple rules of engagement. This presentation is being recorded in Microsoft Teams for sharing with those that aren't able to attend today. To ask a question or make any comments, please use the meeting chat feature. That's the little text looking box. We'll hold on addressing any questions until the end of the presentation. And once the floor is open, we'll rely on our moderators to ask questions that you've entered into the meeting chat. At that time, we'll also open the floor for additional questions or comments. So please just raise your hand once we open the floor and we'll call on you. The raise hand feature, I have a picture of the toolbar down here. You'll see the chat and the raising hand feature if you have that available on your device. And then once we call on you, then you can unmute your line. But we do want to hold questions until the end. So first, I'm Tiffany Tripathi, the chair of the WISH Foundation. With me are Whitney and Daryl. I know they're behind the scenes. They're going to be moderating anything that goes into the chat screens. And we have some special guests today. Some longtime standing members, Kay Dawson and Susan Poole, have joined us. And of course, our guest speaker, Julie Manning, who is also a longtime WISH member. So welcome, some of you special guests out there. So what is WISH? WISH stands for Women Investing in Samaritan Health and is a branch under the Good Samaritan Hospital Foundation. WISH was founded in 2004 and is open to both women and men interested in supporting the health needs of women and children in the Corvallis area, both physical and mental health. At the start of each year, grant submissions are reviewed first by the steering committee and site visits scheduled to meet with those submitters if there's any information or to better connect to understand a particular need. From there, all of the WISH members vote on who receives funding, and notifications goes out to those that are approved. In addition to this, WISH hosts a variety of events to bring women together, including grant celebrations, meet and greets, and education events focused on women's health topics, which we have later this year. It should be noted that the Pacific Communities Health District Foundation also has a women's giving circle. They support healthcare for women and children within the context of the patient care at Samaritan Pacific Communities Hospital in Newport. You can find out more about this generous community of women at samhealth.org. So this WISH Giving Circle is really made up of a lot of different members and ways to be engaged. There's really three ways to be a part of the WISH community. One is to join or renew your annual membership, which is split into two different amounts based on age and is tax deductible. This could be for yourself, or you could sponsor a new member and cover their annual membership commitment. This is a great way to include others that may not be able to join due to financial considerations. Outside of memberships, the WISH Foundation also accepts online donations in any amount. 100% of the money donated goes into funds. I know I have this kind of picture on the side. There's 90% of that money is used in the next giving cycle and 10% to the endowment, which generates additional interest that is added to the funding cycle. So to pursue this avenue further, visit samhealth.org/giving and select Good Samaritan Hospital Foundation, then designate Women Investing in Samaritan Health within the donation submission. To donate to the Newport Foundation Women's Giving Circle, visit the same webpage and select Pacific Communities Hospital Foundation for the Women's Giving Circle. All donations and memberships received by December 31st will be available for giving in the next calendar year. There's also a third way to become active with WISH, and that's to submit a grant request. So starting in November, this will be available from the Foundation's department page on the SHS Insider. Other requesters that aren't employees of Samaritan can find an SHS sponsor to submit a grant request jointly. Submissions are due by January 8th of 2021. And a quick peek of some upcoming events this year. It's been quite an adjustment with COVID as we were used to in-person meetings and we're finding our virtual voice, so to speak. So upcoming events, we have one on Thursday, October 1st at 3 o'clock. That's the WISH Grant Celebration Show and Tell from those that have received grant requests in this calendar year. There's also a women's health panel Thursday, November 12th at 3 o'clock, focusing on women's health topics led by Miranda Miller, one of our WISH steering committee members and Samaritan employee, and Samaritan physicians as well. More of a panel discussion. So detailed information on the next event can be found at samhealth.org/wish when that's updated after this event. Now let's get started with our main topic today, which is examining the impact of women in philanthropy. Joining us is Julie Manning, who is the Vice President of Marketing, Public Relations, and Community Health Promotion at Samaritan Health Services. She is one of WISH's founding members with great insights into the principles and motives in starting this giving circle. In fact, 30 of her 35 years at Samaritan includes fundraising responsibilities as part of her overall job responsibilities, even while she was mayor of Corvallis, although she wasn't actively fundraising during those 4 years. She holds a Leadership Award of Merit from the Oregon Mayors Association, as well as accreditation in public relations and national certification as a fundraising executive. She's an active community volunteer, including co-chair of the Early Learning Hub of Lynn, Benton, and Lincoln counties, and membership on the Oregon State University Board, Benton Community Foundation, Oregon Humanities, and the Oregon Community Foundation's Leadership Council for the Southern Willamette region. Join me in welcoming Julie Manning. Julie, I'll let you take the lead now. Just a reminder to hold any questions until the end and put those in the chat, and we'll address them during the Q&A.
All right. Thank you so much, Tiffany, and thank you for your leadership this year with WISH. And hello, everyone. It's so nice to see. I looked at the list of participants who are on today's call, and many are names who are familiar to me, and it's great to be able to be with you today, and I appreciate the invitation to speak on this topic, near and dear to my heart, and I suspect for those of you on the call today as well, women as philanthropists. And I'm sort of envisioning that our time together will be sort of in several different parts. For the first few minutes, I'm going to share with you some sort of current data and trends around this topic of women in philanthropy. There's actually been quite a bit written about it in the nonprofit literature, so I'll share a little bit about that with you. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit specifically about how some of those trends have really helped shape the development of WISH here at the Good Samaritan Hospital Foundation, and as well influence the work of our colleagues in Newport with the Women's Giving Circle there. And as Tiffany mentioned, one of the participants on the call today, Susan Poole, is also a founding member of WISH and was a board member with the foundation when WISH was created, and she was the first chair of the WISH steering committee. So we'll have a chance to hear from Susan with some of her perspective, and then really a chance to hear your questions and enter into discussion with you about this topic. So with that as sort of setting the context, and I love this photograph. Before we move off of this, Kay Dawson is also with us today. What a great photo of Kay and several other WISH members at one of our WISH events. This particular one was in 2018, and the predominance of the color red in the photo makes me think that this was likely an event that took place in February, which is Heart Month, and women wear red in Heart Month, and a lot of WISH events over the years have taken place during the month of February. So some great people and great memories there. Next slide. Whitney is driving the slide deck today, so thank you for that help, Whitney. So I wanted to mention, I pulled a number of these data points today from several nonprofit journals, and they include the Nonprofit Times and also the Nonprofit Pro. And I was really interested in really this continued growth of impact among women as philanthropic leaders in our country. And some of these statistics actually were quite surprising to me. The first one in particular, that the nonprofit sector is really a growing sector in our economy, and 3/4 of people working in the nonprofit workforce are women. And so as you think about the impact of all of these women working and increasingly leading nonprofit organizations, you can sort of begin to sense the growing impact that has on charitable giving by women, and really, I think, a deeper understanding of how that work is really impacting really our entire society. And you kind of start to see the synergy of that, and it starts to make even more sense in terms of women choosing careers in the nonprofit workforce, sort of mission-related work, and the connection to philanthropy. Women are increasingly wealthy on their own, and you see that reflected in some of the statistics around women holding a little more than half of the total wealth in the United States. That is wealth that is in their name, estimated at $22 trillion in this year, 2020. Women also comprise almost half of all of the millionaires in the U.S., and I think that is also reflecting the fact that many entrepreneurs in our country are women. Maybe their businesses started up as home-based businesses that they were kind of doing on the side while they were juggling a lot of other responsibilities, but ultimately became successful business owners in their own right, and earning substantial income from their entrepreneurial work. That's reflected there, as well as 40% of primary earners in U.S. households are women. And we see that, I think, also reflected in single-parent households that are headed by women, as well as women in substantial positions of affluence with their employment roles. Next slide. I thought that this was a really interesting quote, and this is also another great photo of a WISH event. These were photos that we pulled from our photo library that we have here at Samaritan from events where we came and took photographs. This is from a report titled Women and $1 Million Giving, and this quote really struck me. Women are twice as likely to view charitable giving as the most satisfying aspect of wealth. They are also more likely to value their wealth as a way to create positive change. And as you think about the earlier statistic with 3/4 of the nonprofit labor force as women, the exposure that women have to the impact of nonprofit organizations and the impact of charitable giving on those organizations' ability to meet their mission and really fulfill their purpose, you can really start to see a key motivating factor for women and their philanthropy. But I thought that was a very impactful way of sort of bringing those elements together. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about some of the emerging trends that we see with women giving. This was alluded to earlier in terms of women generating more wealth, heading households, running businesses. Not surprisingly, that also is meaning that more women are giving on their own. That is, as in their own name, to their own causes, and that it may or may not be, they may also be giving with their spouse or partner as a couple, but they may also have their own philanthropic interests that they really support on their own. And I think that is just, I think, reflected in the changing nature of work and workers in the U.S., but certainly a stronger sense of women as philanthropists in their own right. Women are also giving in a way that is practical and hands-on, and I think one of the motivators for that is that women through their volunteer work. And so women may not just give to organizations, write a check, attend a fundraiser, but they tend to be more involved with organizations that are important to them as volunteers, as board members in other ways. And so they are more involved in the ongoing work of the organizations that they support, and they support them in other ways that are more ongoing. Also a growing focus on gender equity and empowering women as part of improving the human condition. And, you know, this has to do with the growing realization of the inequities that we have, income inequities, gender inequities, racial inequities, so many of the elements that increasingly are impacting the way that our society is organized and how it works, and some of the real challenges that are inherent with those inequities. And women being particularly involved in understanding how philanthropic investments can really help address some of these sort of root causes of inequities that we see in our communities. And a topic that we're going to come back to in just a few minutes, the explosive growth of giving circles. And so this idea that giving circles can really be a way that, in a very meaningful way and also in a collegial way, that has this unique social aspect and networking aspect as well, for ways of women to be able to give to causes that they care about. Next slide. So understanding a little bit more about how women give. They give to causes that they care deeply about. And as we saw previously, they often are causes that they are involved with in multiple ways, and causes with whom the mission is very resonant to them. And perhaps because of that additional involvement, women tend to give more than men, and more spontaneously. So the element of really having sort of a compelling catalyst or an event, something that has happened that really motivates them to give, and to give a relatively generous gift. Most grew up in a family culture of giving, and I think that, you know, many of us have I think often heard stories told by people who are recognized for their philanthropy, that this was something that was always a part of their family dynamic, their family norms, their culture. They grew up with this, they believe in it, it's part of who they are, and you see this reflected very much with women in philanthropy as well. And valued not just for how much they give, but how they engage their network and serve as champions for the causes they believe in. This idea of engaging their network, the social aspect of how, and this is very much in alignment with giving circles, that there is this wonderful synergy that can come together around sort of like-minded people, learning about and ultimately investing in organizations that they believe in, that inspire them, and that they really believe can help address some of the core issues that they care about. And I realized that writing, I have a little bar that is inspired by helping organizations solve problems. And I think that again, because women are often involved with the organizations that they invest in through philanthropy, they also can see in a more detailed way how their investments of contributions can really help the organization solve problems and move things forward in a positive way. Next slide. So what are some things that we could look for in terms of how these emerging trends, particularly as they relate to women, can change the future of philanthropy? One is as women begin to make larger gifts in their lifetime. You know, we often think about lifetime gifts as being made through estate planning, and that certainly is a very important component of giving. But for women who are able to make larger gifts in their lifetime, the impact of that and the ability for women to really see and be more a part of how those gifts can really transform an organization, really address issues that are of real need, can be inspiring for those women. Also, women can change the future of philanthropy by moving more often into nonprofit leadership roles, particularly as senior executives in nonprofits and as board leaders, so that they really are even more in roles where they can be involved in strategy and key decisions that really impact the ongoing work and mission of the organization. And they can really impact the work around diversity and outreach, working to address some of these areas of inequity that are so very important. Next slide. One other quote that really struck me as I was preparing for these remarks today, and this is from Kirsten Merrick, who's a founder of a nonprofit called Philanthropy Women. Women leaders in philanthropy will be in demand, as they will have brought a deeper understanding to the sector about how the wealth gap is detrimental to society and how philanthropists must lead the way toward deep systems change to right the balance. I think that, you know, that really, in my mind, sets the tone for really sort of a whole new and expanded role for women to play in some of these key areas as we as a society, often through our nonprofit sector work and community engagement, begin to address some of these areas around needed systems change. Next slide. So we're going to start to transition now to talk a little bit about how some of this work can be uniquely accomplished through giving circles. I thought that we're going to start with the visual elements that are on the left side of the slide. I thought that this first statistic was so interesting that 46%, so almost half of all women's giving circles that are currently underway in the United States have launched since 2010. And so that earlier reference to this explosive growth of giving circles is really demonstrated in that slide. Our own giving circle here at the Good Sam Foundation has been in existence several years longer than that, but we're really seeing a tremendous growth in that particular type of giving organization now. Also, that donations from Giving Circle members are growing, and in 2017, the average member donation was just a little over $1,300. Most Giving Circles are women-dominated, not all of them, and the steering committee from the very beginning, as WISH was being formulated, wanted to make sure that that membership was open to men as well as women. But it's really seen as a way to aggregate impact and to develop nonprofit leaders. So there are a number of other complementary, positive impacts that we see from Giving Circles as sort of a unique way of giving. At least 150,000 people in the United States are currently engaged with Giving Circles, and the average size of a Giving Circle is just a little over 100 members. When you look at the areas of interest and emphasis for Giving Circles, the three areas of human services, education, and women and girls are the primary areas of focus for philanthropic giving, and we certainly see that with our own WISH Giving Circle as well. So moving now specifically to talk a little bit about WISH. Next slide. So in preparing for the talk today, as Tiffany mentioned, for most of the years that I've been with Samaritan Health, I also had responsibilities for our fundraising program and was a staff member. I had Daryl's position at the Good Sam Foundation when the initial discussions were happening around developing a women's giving circle for the Good Sam Foundation. And this excerpt was actually, I found this in my computer files because I was the person who was putting together the first brochure that we used for talking about WISH and encouraging people to consider becoming a member of WISH. So this was in 2005, just as WISH was getting going. So it recalls that a group of local women began meeting with the Good Samaritan Hospital Foundation on an exciting program to support the healthcare needs of area women and children and to celebrate the growing presence and impact of women as philanthropists. 6 months later, WISH was born. And as I mentioned, we have some founding members of WISH with us on the call today. Next slide. The WISH concept really came to us from Susan Poole specifically based on really positive experience that she had had as a member of the Giving Circle that Oregon State University has that still is in existence today. And Oregon State, because many of OSU's alumni are based outside of the Corvallis area. Many are in Portland, but they're all over the world. But especially in the Portland area, there was the Giving Circle was really thought of as an opportunity to try to keep some of those Portland area alumni a little bit more connected to the Corvallis campus and some of the exciting things that were happening in Corvallis, and to bring them back to campus to reconnect with faculty and staff and researchers on the projects that were being proposed for funding through a Giving Circle grant. And so just like we do with WISH here at the hospital, the OSU Giving Circle involves members of the Giving Circle in doing the due diligence around the proposals that have been submitted for funding, connecting with the proposal writers and learning more about the programs and projects that the grant would support. So it was, it's really a great way of trying to keep the alums connected to campus, and you see that university foundations, colleges and universities are very involved in this Giving Circle model for that reason. It's another way of keeping alumni connected to the work on campus and excited about the work that's happening. So Susan and continues to have positive experience with that Giving Circle, and was a member of the foundation board at that time, and we had a conversation about her work on the Giving Circle, and ultimately she invited me to attend an event with her that the OSU Giving Circle had sponsored in Portland, and I really had a chance to learn more about the Giving Circle model. We were enthusiastic about exploring the option further, brought a group of people together from the foundation board and others from the community to discuss the concept, and ultimately many of those folks ended up being members of what was the first iteration of the steering committee that developed the initial framework for WISH, the operating guidelines, and started to envision how WISH would work. And so when I was invited to speak today, I was so excited to consider an opportunity where Susan could be a part of the discussion today and share some of her thoughts as well. Next slide. And so I wanted to be sure that she could be here today. She and I talked about what I was going to be talking about, and I asked her if she would consider responding to these three questions. You know, thinking about what prompted her initial interest in establishing the Giving Circle, what aspects of WISH is she most proud of today as a longtime WISH member and a founder, and what would be her most important piece of advice that she would share with the leaders of WISH today. So I'd like to invite Susan to take the stage here and share her thoughts about these three questions. Is she here? I'm just clicking on the participants.
She's here. She may be muted.
Susan, if you're muted on your phone, I believe if you press star, is it star six? That will unmute you.
Oh, okay. How's that?
Oh, there she is.
Oh, excellent. So sorry, I missed the final prompt there. So thank you for including me and reflections of WISH and then some prospective thoughts. Julie did a wonderful job of giving some context of Giving Circles and what prompted me to have interest. And I will also mention Washington Women's Giving Circle and Colleen Willoughby, who was really the foremother of Giving Circles, shall I say. So I was able to look at other models, and several of which were part of philanthropic work for hospitals. And then, again, as Julie has stated, we were able to go to the Hospital Foundation Executive Committee and provide the context of this, and so very grateful for their willingness to allow us to launch with this. And then going forward, I'm also very, very grateful for the remarkable group of women who were that initial steering committee and really brought a lot of things together that saw value and potential for this. So that early success was wonderful. The aspects of which I'm most proud are certainly, and I would hope that others who were initially involved and continue to be involved, is the impact and positivity that we've been able to make to really help with healthier lives and productive lives for women and children and thereby families, and so everyone benefits from those kinds of things. And some of the unique ways that we were able to collaborate with organizations, nonprofits in our community that had established relationships with Good Samaritan Hospital, and to be able to strengthen both their capacity and the work that we hope that they would be able to achieve. And in terms of advice for today's WISH leaders, I would say that there is certainly benefit to go back and revisit and look at some of those core elements of what gave the Women's Circle its essence and its vitality, and to see, perhaps there are ways to re-embody that and reinvigorate that and so forth. So next slide, please.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you so much for being with us and for sharing your thoughts today as well. I thought that I might just sort of conclude my prepared remarks by posing some questions and in terms of things that we as a Women's Giving Circle might consider as we go forward. I really believe that the landscape is changing. It's changing in our society. It's changing the way that charitable organizations think about their missions and what they do and how they do it. And I think it's broadening the scope of their consideration of organizations with whom they can partner in this work. And I think certainly for us as women philanthropists, particularly interested in health and health care, that these questions, in my mind, would be very interesting ones for us to explore as we consider the next 20 years of WISH and beyond in terms of the work that we do for those whom we serve. And this first question is, how will WISH continue to adapt as healthcare delivery changes? As more and more of health is about what happens beyond the walls of our hospitals and our clinics, and really is about the work that we do together to help people stay healthy. How can WISH consider those components as we look broadly at this aspect of community health and the role that we play as the healthcare provider and healthcare system in the region to support the continued evolution of healthcare delivery. Also, how does WISH connect with an increasingly diverse population with varied healthcare interests? And so across the healthcare spectrum, people are motivated to support elements in each parts of that continuum. What does that look like, and how can we engage those interests with the opportunity for WISH to support them? Also, how will WISH address issues of health equity as part of its funding consideration? I think that this is one of the real challenges of our time as we consider how to help everyone be able to access health, to attain and sustain good health. How can we as an organization and as a Women's Giving Circle support those important issues of health equity? And also, how does WISH foster women as philanthropists and community leaders? I think one of the, and you really sort of saw that just in looking at some of the photos that we shared today, people who come together for this work are really committed to the work, and they're committed to how they're supporting it through philanthropy, but I think they're also really committed to engaging in that work together as a group of women who share a commitment in this regard, and just learning from one another, spending time with one another. They're energized by one another, and the giving circles, I think, are really a wonderful and somewhat unique avenue for bringing together the social aspects and just the really good feeling of giving and supporting issues that are important to us, and learning about the impact of that support as well. So with those sort of as questions to think about for another day, I wanted to conclude my formal remarks and give folks an opportunity to ask questions, or if you have comments that you'd like to share as well. Thank you.
This is Daryl with the Good Samaritan Hospital Foundation. We did have a question from Stephanie wondering about why is there a different annual cost based on age? And I know the short answer is that the WISH group wanted to, it was originally just $500 for membership, and they wanted to attract younger members, and so they added the $250 level. But if anyone else is on the line that remembers that decision, please chime in.
Other comments on that? The $500 annual suggested contribution has been that number from the beginning, and so I think that likely as future steering committee groups considered how to continue to expand the membership, and particularly to engage donors who may be newer in their careers, or really sort of getting started with their philanthropy, it provides a nice opportunity for that as well.